Session resumed. Distinguished Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, our parliamentary status is that we have declared a privilege hour. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the next to avail of the privilege hour is the gentleman from the party list, ang Edukasyon, the Honorable Salvador Belaro. I move for the recognition of the Honorable Belaro. So move, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Any objection? There being no objection, the distinguished member or the distinguished Pilano is hereby recognized.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues in this august body, guests at the gallery, particularly those from Unang Edukasyon Party List, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Last week, I requested that this representation be allowed to deliver a privileged speech regarding President Rodrigo Duterte's State of the Nation address in relation to education. However, a disturbing development transpired towards the weekend, which made me change the slant of my speech and to morph it into one of personal privilege. That development is the unfortunate comment of the President regarding party lists, that the party list system has been, among others, abused, and that it's become a mockery of the law. This was followed, ladies and gentlemen, by acerbic bashings of the party list system in Facebook and the social media, prompting our supporters from different parts of the country to urge us to issue a statement in our defense. After all, it is a basic rule in evidence that whenever there is an opportunity to object and one does not state it, he is forever barred to do so. As an active practicing lawyer for the past 20 years, and as a former dean of a college of law, this representation feels that he should be one of the very first in this august body to assert it. In making this speech, I do not mean to speak for the entire 59 party list groups in Congress today. This representation only speaks for our party. Neither do we mean that we are withdrawing our unqualified support for the sweeping reforms being made by the President, as we remain ready to complement his reforms with matching legislative action in the field of education. For the record, ladies and gentlemen, our party, Unang Edukasyon, wishes to take exception to the comment of the President and to state that our presence in Congress is not a mockery of the law. We are a first-term, first-try party list in the 17th Congress. While we started applying for accreditation only in 2013, we were only allowed to participate in the party list elections during the elections of May 9, 2016. We are actually, ladies and gentlemen, a group of ragtag educators, mostly college professors who dream of making a real difference in this country by stepping down from our ivory towers to try our luck at the electoral process, believing that Congress would be a more effective venue to translate our ideas into realistic legislative actions. We campaigned hard, ladies and gentlemen. Despite our meager resources, we crossed the seas, we trekked hills and climbed mountains, literally and figuratively, just to convey our message across to voters that ang tunay na pag-asa ay nasa edukasyon. We campaigned to work for the eradication of the education gap, the annual phenomenon of 600,000 graduates of our schools with no jobs or mismatched jobs. We campaigned for the democratization of access to education to extend to the underprivileged and those in the fringes of society. We battled for globalization of our education standards and for teachers and students' welfare. We all did that with fiery passion and commitment. Whatever we lack in resources, we made it up for it by the zeal and unceasing enthusiasm of our supporters who were armed with nothing but mimeographed flyers containing our mission and vision, as well as our intended program of action. The President's comment, ladies and gentlemen, is highly unfair and does not do justice to the efforts of our supporters who staked blood, sweat, and tears just to ensure our representation in this august body. It's not just about money, ladies and gentlemen. The past elections will show that not only a big war chest can make you win. We campaigned on a shoestring budget, in fact, where the law allows a maximum expense of 10 pesos per voter for the country's around 50 million voters for national positions, like that for party lists. We only spent a very meager amount. In contrast, we know of other party list groups whose election expenses reached already 50 million pesos and above, but still did not make it. Some of them even had costly television advertisements. We never had any. We were voted by 278,693 of our countrymen. This speech is a tribute to them as they believe that we can do something for them, and who repose trust in the party list system as an avenue for effecting meaningful changes in our country. We do not wish to frustrate them, nor do we want them to be disheartened by the unfortunate remarks of the President. We are citing this to prove that more than money, platform also counts in the party list elections. I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, platform also counts in the party list elections. Our victory is an eloquent testimony that at the very least, a portion of our electorate is mature enough to go beyond the usual election rhetoric in determining the best candidates for their choice. Our victory only affirms the intent of the party list system to catapult to Congress groups which can in no way win in district elections, but which has a substantial national constituency so as to deserve a seat in Congress. That is a very noble intent, ladies and gentlemen, as it would pave the way for a new breed of congressmen who did not spend a lot to secure a seat in Congress. Thus, the party list system is an equalizing measure, one of the recent praiseworthy legal innovations in recent history that is in sync with democratization of power and the promotion of social justice. Ladies and gentlemen, look at me right now. Were it not for the party list system, this representation, who is the son of a farmer and a public school teacher from the boondocks of Camarines Sur, born in the side streets of Iriga City and raised in the rice lands of Goa, Camarines Sur, would never have stood a chance to stand before you today. Yes, we trust that our electorate also possess the maturity in determining candidates with credible credentials from those with shallow ones. For our nominees in the last elections, we chose only the most qualified and the most committed from our ranks. Not only that, we chose nominees who exemplify what we preach. Nominees who are self-made persons whose lives mirror our vision that you can change your life through education. Thus, we have as our nominees Dr. Nestor de la Cruz, who is one of the pillars of tertiary education in the country and is one of the most outstanding educators ever produced by the University of Santo Tomas. Attorney Dexter Francisco is a professor of constitutional law and one of the country's top election lawyers. Dr. Edith Bunoan is one of the respected faculty members of Far Eastern University, having been a teacher the past 35 years, while Eunice Gicana is a multi-awarded youth community organizer. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we have this representation who, begging your kind indulgence, ladies and gentlemen, is an honor graduate of the University of the Philippines, a class president at the UP College of Law, and a holder of a Master of Laws degree from Cornell University, where I was elected class representative of the LLM class of 2004. With these qualifications, ladies and gentlemen, this representation respectfully submits that our nominees more than substantially comply with the requirement in the party list law that nominees should be able to contribute to the enrichment of legislative agenda. In fact, with all due respect, we submit that the credentials of our nominees typify no less than the ideal credentials for those entering government service. It is rather unfortunate that the President's remark disparages our initial efforts to do our best in the performance of our legislative tasks, as we are very serious in doing good work in the 17th Congress. To show proof of our intent, this representation, in the very first day in office, filed 30 bills and resolutions, all relating to education, and all of which breathe life to our advocacy of fostering and empowering education in our country. Because of the coincidence, ladies and gentlemen, in the number, we refer to them as the Duterte bills and resolutions. Because just like the President, we also want pressing reforms done in the field of education. Some of these bills seek to democratize access to education, includes bill for the creation of community colleges, the College Loan Act, establishment of the National Center for Scholarships. Some bills are meant to improve the quality of our education, such as the Research Incentives Act, the Online Library Act, the Computer in Internet Access Act. Some bills are intended to improve the welfare of teachers, including the Teachers Dependent Act, the minimum salary increase for teachers, Teachers Non-Discrimination Act, and Teachers for the Barrios Act. For our students, we offer the School Nutrition Act, the Dorm Rent Control Law, Teachers and Students Insurance Act, and the School Accessibility Act. We also wish to facilitate the transition of our graduates in making their education economically useful by proposing the Job Fair Act of 2016, the Barangay Employment Act, the employability of graduates of senior high schools, and the granting of first-level civil service eligibility to graduates of TESDA courses. In addition, Mr. Speaker, we are seeking a congressional investigation in aid of legislation of the education gap. We are also seeking an investigation of the unliquidated 1 billion pesos scholarship fund by the Commission on Higher Education. And this is a hot issue right now, ladies and gentlemen. We are also calling a congressional investigation on the status of the implementation of K-12 by the Department of Education. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, we are happy to find out that we have kindred spirits among the 59 other party list members in the present Congress. As my colleagues in the party list bloc, in their own right, because this representation can vouch for their credentials and accomplishments that entitle them to be worthy of this august body. We may not agree with each other on a lot of matters, but we certainly cannot deny that with respect to the advocacies they are pushing for in this august body, their competence and expertise cannot be denied. We have amongst us in the party list bloc an expert in international law, many experts in labor, cooperatives, education, consumer rights, youth and sports development, advocates of the welfare of the regions they represent, and those with unquestionable track record in employment generation and uplifting the plight of the marginalized sectors of our society. I am especially proud, ladies and gentlemen, that I am part of the party list bloc in the 17th Congress, as this represents right now the highest stage of evolution of the party list system in the Philippines, which started 21 years ago. As in the case of many organizations, each one follows a learning curve through the years. The party list system is not an exception to this. It has withstood the test of time, and so far, this batch of party lists in the 17th Congress is the best so far. Not because the representation belongs to them, but because of their verifiable credentials and accomplishments. In rising to the defense of our honor, begging the kind indulgence of the majority where their representation belongs, as well as that of the party list system in general, this representation reiterates that we do not mean to denigrate our party's respect for the President, to whom we express our unwavering and unqualified support. We still remain to have utmost faith in the sweeping reforms he is implementing all over the country. And as a Filipino, we cannot but have a sense of pride in his accomplishments in so short a time. Thus, his comment on the party-list system notwithstanding, will remain his staunch supporter, who is willing to match his sweeping reforms by corresponding legislative reforms in the field of education that we hope to initiate. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, when the President was criticized for not mentioning much about education in his State of the Nation address, this representation was one of the very first to cite during media interviews that while what he said in his State of the Nation address on education was only very brief, he nevertheless cited magic words, which for educators like us already state mouthfuls. When the President spoke of expanding ALS, or the alternative learning system, it is an express recognition of the limitations of our educational system and the need to expand its coverage to those in the fringes of society. When the President spoke of installing Wi-Fi facilities in schools, we were thrilled by the idea because putting up Wi-Fi will open up a whole new world for even those students and teachers in far-flung areas. It will definitely revolutionize not only instruction, communication, and administrations of schools all over the country. No other president in previous States of the Nation address has spoken on this. And if realized, the President's policy directions on education conveyed in his SONA will herald a revolutionary democratization of our educational system. It was once said, in every crisis, there is an opportunity. Indeed, the unfortunate comment of the President on the party-list system has cast doubts on the credibility of the members of the party-list bloc in the 17th Congress, resulting in what may be referred to as a crisis in the image of the party-list system in general. Ladies and gentlemen, particularly those who are members of the party-list bloc, may I respectfully and humbly request that you consider 3 opportunities by such crisis, which I challenge all my fellow party-list members in the 17th Congress to respond accordingly, as I'm very sure you are all capable of surmounting the challenge. First is the opportunity of education. This is the best time for us to educate the general public on the importance of the party-list system. Second is the opportunity of projection. This is also the time which we can showcase the accomplishments of the party-list system thus far, through the years that it went through its learning curve. Third is the opportunity of raising the bar of what the party list which went before us has done, of correcting mistakes from the past and learning from them. Once again, we are one with the President in his efforts to institute sweeping reforms in the country, and we are hoping that at least in the field of education, we can be considered as worthy partners who are willing to match these reforms with corresponding legislative actions. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, the reforms being conducted by the President, the sweeping reforms at that, can be likened to housekeeping and house cleaning. And in this regard, let all the dirt, the stains in the cobwebs go. Let also all the rodents, the insects in the wasps go. But by analogy in the government, in the party-list system, let us also evaluate our actions, identify our mistakes, and correct them. In the same manner, we should also learn from them and treasure the gains. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the prudent way, the best way, the only way to ensure the continuance of the vibrancy of our democracy, and not the way which would bring the house down, demolish it, and destroy the very structure of government which supports it. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the 17th Congress. God bless the Republic of the Philippines.
Distinguished Majority Leader,
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the privileged speech of the Honorable Representative Salvador B. Belaro of Partylist 1, ang Edukasyon, to the Committee on Rules. So move, Mr. Speaker.
any objection? The Chair, hearing none, the speech of the gentleman from the party list, ang Edukasyon, is referred to the Committee on Rules.